So we explained before the idea of Matoivu Oyhalecha Yaakov, what the idea of Oyhalecha. Oyhalecha is Makif, the union of mitzvahs. That's the level of Yaakov, both in Asay Toiv and Sur Meirah. It's all in the level of Makif. Then you have Mishkan Nisecha Yisrael. Mishkan Nisecha is a more permanent dwelling place because Torah is considered to be bipnimia, so that becomes a mishkan, not just a oil, which is just a tent. Pirush. So what it means is Yisrael, in the level of Yisrael, which is the level of Torah, who shoichem b'bchinas pnimius mamish. Over there, Hashem rests in an inner way, actually. V'loi b'bchinas oilu makif levad, not just in a oyel, a tent, and a surrounding alone, because we said before it's in a level of makif. When you learn Torah, occupation with Torah, then you bring down in a pnimis. Mamer, our sages tell us, Mishachor Beis Hamikdash, Ein LaKadosh Baruch Hu Lo Melad Al Damas Alocha. From the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, what does Hashem have in this world? He doesn't have any more a Beis Hamikdash, but he has the 4 cubits of halacha. So it means that the 4 cubits of halacha provide the Beis Hamikdash. That's a regular, full dwelling place. So it turns out that the Torah is an inner presence of Hashem. It takes the place of I dwell amongst you. So over there it was Mamish Shechanti B'Seicham inside, and the same thing is within the Torah. Bezo Inyan Yisrael Lirosh. This is the same idea. We say that Yisrael's Lirosh, in the head there is the revelation. In the head there is the general revelation of the Moichin. That's why it's the Rosh comes. Where does it come in a pnimis? It comes in the Rosh. But the revelation of the nefesh, of the in the rest of the limbs, is not in an inner. Say, for example, the thought. Shehi meir gam beregel. We have to say that the thought is in the foot as well. As soon as you have in your mind to move your foot, you're going to move your foot. That means it doesn't take time for it to evolve. It just goes directly. So that means that machshava dresses up in the regel, but not in a primistic way. As opposed to the way it dresses up in the head, it's fully in an inner primis. It shines also in the foot. As soon as it enters his will, umachshavta, and his thought, the naneya ragloy, to move his foot, tis naneya haregel, the foot will move. It doesn't take any time. You don't need any time at all. So what does it mean? So we have to say it must be that it shines also in the foot. But still, how does it? This is shine only comes in a makif way. The foot doesn't understand what is the machshava. It just listens. It follows. But in the head and in the brain, the thought shines in a inner way. So that's the idea of Yisrael. So and this along this path, Nikra Yaakov Yud Okev. Yaakov is called Yud Okev, which means from the Yud to the Akev Shalidei Hamaisa Meir Eira Sevim Kolam Mimchinas Makif. Through the Maisa, you bring the Sevim the Makif. That's Yaakov. Avol Yisrael the Roish Al Yidei Esek HaTorah Meir Mizgale. It's not that it just shines, it's revealed. So through Torah, you get it in an inner way. Osik says, don't call your name anymore Yaakov, but Yisrael ki sorisim elikim, because you've overpowered the elikim. Pirush shehu mishtarer al shem elikim. So the shem elikim hides the oira shem kolam. When you dominate the shem elikim, that means that you bring down in a gilui and you don't allow for the shem elikim to block it. Pirush mishtarer shem elikim. Al derech vatigzar oimer vayokum chulu, the pasuk that he decreed, and you can niskarim serichel gimel bahar dav kufyud amid beis. V'hainu, what it means is like this: Kishem elikim hu b'chinas mogen l'shem havaya. The shem elikim is a protective, is a shield for the shem havaya that blocks the shem havaya. By day ha'esek b'teirah. And through your occupation, the Torah goyim you cause that there should be no hollow, no curtain separating. There should be no separation. Why? When you're learning Torah, as it says, then the Eibishter corresponds and learns Torah. So it means that you bring down Kodesh Baruch Hu. Then you're in the level of you dominate, because you bring down the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So there's no more blockage, no more elikim. Sarisim elikim. Okay, Iker Hapirush, but the main meaning of the main difference between Aהליך and Mishkan Yisachar. So here we're teaching Torah, mitzvahs, makif, gilui, but the real difference, what is the difference between the oil and the mishkan? So we see the pasuk says, "V'asiso yiriyus izim le'oil ala mishkan." So you had the two. You had the mishkan, that was the lower level of the coverings on in the mishkan. And on top of that, you had a protective, which was the Yiriyas Izim. So you have an Oyhel, which is Yaakov, and then you have the Mishkan, which is Yisrael. Shara Mishkan hu eser Yiriyas sheish morzor tcheles vargomachulu. What is the Mishkan? The Mishkan is the 10 Yiriyas, right? Those are the 10 Yiriyas sheish morzor tcheles. Specifically, what is sheish? Sheish means linen, but sheish is 6. Those are the midas of Atzilus. Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes. So those are, from them comes kosher apostle. And that's also the colors, different colors, different based. So Torah, which tells you the kosher apostle, comes from the level of sheish, and then it says v'tolas shoni she'ein koicha ela b'fiv chulu. So I guess I'm not sure exactly how the tolas shoni. Tolas shoni is brought for a person who speaks lashon hara, right? It brings also one of the remedies over there is, and I think, and one of the sheish morzot childar gom tolas shoni you brought in the Beis Hamikdash in the Mishkan, and that's shein koicha ela b'fiv. But Torah means your mouth, because that's what it says by a person who, like Bilam, who speaks lashon hara, his power is in his mouth. And the same thing by Yidden, the power is in learning Torah. Ein koicha ela b'fiv. What is what Akol Kol Yaakov? That Yaakov is with a mouth. So therefore, this all represents the level of Zoh of Atzilus, Zeir Ampin of Atzilus. Zoh Inyan Mishkan Yisachar Yisrael. This is the Mishkan Yisrael. Ach Inyan Yiriyas Izim. What is the Inyan of Yiriyas Izim? Shema Nikroim Oyel. That's called the Oyel. That comes from the sorting out that we sort out in Klipas Nega. through staying away from bad and doing good. So that way we're mevarer all the nitzotzes from the klipas noige that we do the mitzvahs and sumer asay tov. They are the two first shuvah. So that gets you the what? That gets you the oil. Torah gets you the Mishkan, and Yiris Izim come through the mitzvah Sumer Avsiter. Hinek Siv, Esav Och Ish Soyer. My brother Esav, he's a hairy man. Man with a lot of hair. So Mebichinas Cyrus or Izim Yankim Achitzonim. The hairs of the goats, that's where the outers take from. In other words, they nurture from there. Abba Yaakov see, that's why Esav Och Ish Soyer, the hair represents the Yinikas Achitzonim. Abba Yaakov Ksiv Anochi Ish Cholok, he says he was a smooth man. He says, he takes from Hashem. He's a part of Hashem, not through the Nikas Chitzonim. He's a part of Hashem, so he's a cholok. He's smooth, no here. When you're mevarer the Surah Sitoiv, mevarer mebchinas Cyrus Izim, so then you sort out from the level of the Cyrus Izim, which is the Chitzonim Aryonik. So she dresses up the hair or the skin of the Gdoya Izim. She put them on Yaakov's hands, his mother, right? Rachel. Rivka. So she put on Yaakov's hands, and that is the birur taking from the Sidus that there is Yinikas Achitzonim and putting it on to Yaakov to be mevarer, and that becomes the oil. V'ainu gamkim shemehem nase hagonos liyis oil. That from them, from the Gdiya Izim, from the oil ala Mishkan, that was made from the Yiriyas Izim. So it becomes a protection for the oil. Am I going to lead? It should become an oil. Umegin ala Mishkan shubichinas Torah. That is the level of Torah. So you put it a cover on top of the Mishkan. To protect on him from this outer interpersonal way. So it says, Rabbi who just learned Torah, he just lived for 40 years. He also, in addition to Torah, he also did an act of kindness. He lived 60 years. Basically, he had the protection from the Yidiyas Izim on top of the Mishkan to protect him, and therefore he had a longer life. The business people, Maginim al Talmidei Chacham, they protect the Talmidei Chachamim. They're considered the protection on the Mishkan because the Talmidei Chachamim get their livelihood through the Balei Asokim. V'ayim hashikosu b'mokum achar b'pirish sa'orich k'eder ha'izim shegolshu chulu, and the Pasuk explains that. V'ayin me'inyan v'sisir isizim la'oyil ala mishka b'zerchel based truma davkov samach on b'alef and pekudit afresh lamed gimel lamed based. V'oid yesh loymar be'inyan oyil lecho apima shekosu b'rabis say the nosei parshi based kol of the sefer. Another chilik between oil. So over here, oil basically is the Balei Asokim, and the Mishkan is the Talmidei Chachamim, and they're protecting over them. But another interpretation of Pimachkos Barabas said the Nosh Parish of this says like this: Matoivo Elecha Yaakov. What is the tense of Yaakov? the oil moed shabe midbar. That's the oil moed in the midbar. V'shabe shiloi ubenoi v'givan. What we have over there. Mashma abo mishkan Yisrael. I guess it doesn't. The Medrash Rabbah doesn't finish over there. Doesn't conclude. But that's Oyalecha. Mishkan Yisrael is Beis Hamikdash in Yerushalayim. If the Oyalim are the temporary ones in the Midbar, Shiloh, Nevi, Given, which this stood only for a while, in the Beis Hamikdash is permanent. But Inyan, the Oyal Moed Nikla Diras Adish Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Oyal Moed is called a temporary dwelling for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's like he was going to say when the Balaisik, when he learns Torah a little bit, spend a little time, so that Torah is only like a temporary dwelling place versus a Talmid Chacham whose whole life is learning Torah. Abla Migdash Yerushalayim, the Migdash Yerushalayim, Hoy Diras Keva. That was a permanent structure. K'mashikos v'zeh b'divra maschil, v'yigash elav Yehuda, v'ayin zeh v'chelik beis truma dakuf samadal domen beis, and pekudei davreish mamalav aleph, u'beitz chaim shar miyid herech perik beis. V'kach u'b'chinis Yaakov u'b'chinis Yisrael. Likewise, the level of Yaakov and Yisrael. Kibalei asokim nikroim Yaakov. They're called Yaakov. K'shem koiv mitim l'toiro, when they set time for learning Torah, Yaakov, that's called a temporary. But they, Talmid Chacham, who always occupied in Torah in a set way, their Torah is called a permanent dwelling place. That's already a mishkan. It's not an oil, it's a mishkan. So, by Yokom, Eidus be Yaakov. By Yaakov, it's only testimony, testifies. But the Torah song, where do you place the Torah? That's be Yisrael. So begin is that Torah Atzmo. When we talk about Torah itself, Shi Chochmei Lo, Torah itself, which is called Chochmei Lo, Hanikra, Heicholo Ilo the Kuchubericho. That's the supreme room of Hashem. Sha'oir Sof Baruch Hu Shoyre Shom B'Tmidos, where the blessed light of the Ein Sof rests there on a continuous ways in a permanence. That is the revealed level of Yisrael. The Torah Som be Yisrael. That's Avo B'chinas Eidus. Eidus is a testimony. That's only a ray, a shine from Chochmah. Kinyan Neivlis Chochmah, as we say, like the leftover of the Chochmah. That comes in the level of Yaakov. That's why that's called a temporary. And also, so there's a Torah Nikra Gamkein Bais. The Torah is called, here we're calling it a Mishkan, but it's still a permanent, it's called a house. Don't call them the sons, but they're builders. This is Chaim Shar Mem Aleph Peri Gimel. Sheyesh Leimer the Oyhalim Hu Amemutza Ben Levush Lebayis Einshov. That an oil is an intermediate between a garment and a house. So Torah is the house, and the oil, that's the mitzvah, that's the memutza. Al derech zeh shekoivim rak itim l'Torah. If you can only set time for Torah, then nikra oil, then you're called an oil. Shehu memutza, which is a memutza. When b'chinas makif l'vush, b'chinas makif elyon debayis. Avok she'oiseh b'Torah. When you are occupied in Torah, then you're nikra b'noyach. Then you're a builder. Then it's a house. And this is also Hashem Shari Tzion. Better than all the Mishkonis, better than all the temporary is the Sharei Tzion. What is the Sharei Tzion? The gates of Tzion. That's the Shorim HaMetzion Balacha. That's Torah and Balacha. Mamer Azal. So our sages, our blessed memory, tell us in Perikamat the Brachos and Daf Ches Omid Aleph that Oyev Hashem Shorim HaMetzion Balacha Yoiser Mimchinas Botei Knessis Botei Bedrashos. Hashem loves those gates, Shari Tzid, those gates that are outstanding in halacha more than shuls and more than study halls. So v'hainal derech Yisrael, this is similar to the advantage bechinas Mishkenisecha de Yisrael, the level of Mishkenisecha de Yisrael, al bechinas over the level of a halacha de Yaakov. Even though over here it's halacha versus even better medrashas, because that's also Torah story, but especially halacha has that advantage also. Magid dvorov leYaakov, chukom mishpotov leYisrael. So the dvorov, his words, is like edus. Chukom mishpotov like Torah som Yisrael, v'kiyin edus v'Torah. That's like we said before. Edus beYaakov v'Torah som b'Yisrael. V'aymi magid dvorov chulu b'Rabbi Seiv der boy. Parsha Tezvav, Parsha Yites, Mishpotim, Parsha Lam. Kam yesh loymar al derech shenisbar b'divra maschil aboim yashlish Yaakov yotzitz v'orach Yisrael. Shebechinas hatzmicha shel osi, that the growth in the future is bechinas Yisrael. That is the level of Yisrael. V'kach is galus. Pnimis ha-Torah, the real level of Torah, the inner part of Torah. Pnimis v'atzachach mula yilosi. That's why that yotzitz v'orach Yisrael will blossom, which means right now we have Yisrael also, but that's the real Yisrael will come. Is galus pnimis ha-Torah in the Mashiach. When Mashiach comes, and that's why it says v'forach Yisrael. Yisrael will blossom then in the future. So okay, so now he talked about 3 levels of teshuvah. What he talked about. So we talked about Sulmarasi Toiv and the level of Torah. So now he's going to ask that l'cheida, we always know 2 levels of teshuvahs. Here we added a 3rd level of teshuvah. We have teshuvah law and teshuvah tator. And he's going to bring about that in teshuvah tator we have 2 levels, and then we have 1 level of teshuvah law, and also in teshuvah law there's 2 levels. Let's see exactly. Let's go back to the subject of the 3 levels of teshuvah. The l'cheida hareloi matzina b'svarim rak shnei b'chinas teshuvah. We only find 2 levels of teshuvah. Hainu teshuvah tator v'teshuvah law. Teshuvah tator, teshuvah law. What is the word teshuvah? Teshuvah means toshuv hey. In the name of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, you have a hey on the top, but you have a hey on the bottom. Yud Kei, then you have the Vav Kei. So one is teshuvah tator, meaning to bring back the hey to the Vav, and the other one is to bring back the hey to the Yud. The hey law is bina. The hey tator is malchus. But those are the 2 teshuvahs. Teshuvah is hainu. What is teshuvah? Hainu toshuv kei. It's toshuv kei. Return the hey. V'yesh hey tator, which is the hey. V'yesh hey tator hey law. You have a law. V'heim beis teshuvah zera. Which is kosuv. But it's just chochmah sharat teshuvah perik beis. So what are we talking all of a sudden about 3 levels of teshuvah when there's only 2 levels of teshuvah? Based understand it, based on the statement of the Zoyar in Chelik Beis it's brought down in the Reish Chochmah. He's quoting the language now for the Reish Chochmah. He says, "V'kivon de ochid bi'ilona de chaya kidein ikri bal tshuva." Once you unite, and we're talking about, as we will see the explanation, once you unite Malchus to the tree of life, the tree of life is Zoh, there's a Yichud Zoh Malchus, Kidein Ikra Bal Teshuvah. Then you call it the husband of Teshuvah. Why? Because the Baal is Mashpia, husband is the Mashpia to Teshuvah. That's when you unite the Malchus with Zoh. Because Knesset Yisrael Malchus, which is Knesset Yisrael, is also called Teshuvah, even without the Yichud Achid Bilona Dechayah. But V'iyu Bal Teshuvah Ikra. Now he is called a Bal Teshuvah. Now he's a husband of Teshuvah, not just Teshuvah. The Kadmoy Amru Bal Teshuvah Mamish. And the Kadmois say that this is, that I have to be about Shuvah, not just Shuvah. Even tzaddikim cannot stand in the place of Shuvah. This is the language of the Zohar. So what does this mean? What he explains there in the part when it says Kidain Ikri Baal Teshuvah, now he is called a Baal Teshuvah. Pirush, it means Kivon Shoachus B'Zeir, since he's holding on. I think it's B'Zeir Ampin. It means he calls it Zeir, the short. He's holding on to the Zeir. L'chein Nikra B'chinas Baal. Then he's called a Baal, which is Hainu B'Hashpia, L'B'chinas Keitato. Then he becomes the Hashpia to Keitato. And this is what he means when he says, he writes, Knesset Yisrael in the Zohar. Shehi Amalchus Shuba, this is the Mikdash Melech explaining. Because the Zohar says, Knesset also Malchus Shuba, Uv Hochi Ikri, she's also called Shuba. Ritzenu Leimer. She Nikras Gamkin Shuba K'may Bina. Just like the Bina, the level of Yud, the Kei Ilah. Shehi Hei Ilah, Vihi Hei Tato, the level of Malchus is the Torah, so this Shuba in itself. And once the Baal Shuba holds on in Eitz HaChaim, which is the level of Zoh, Akein Nikra, now he's called the Baal Shuba. He's the husband of the Shuba. He causes the Hamshochem he brings down from the Sefer of Mal. But Loche Nikra Baal Mamesh, it's called the husband. Mashpil Shulazu is Mashpil Shul. How they move on. So now we understand that within the Tshuva Tato, Shuinya Toshuv Kei Tato Yeshne Madreges. So you have two levels. What are the levels? One is the Tshuva by itself, and one is the Baal Tshuva. So that's the tshuva of Sumera and the tshuva Seitoy, which means like this: Shal Yidei Sumera Goyrem Shetoshuv Keitato Legabe Vav, brings the Keitato to the Vav, the Hainu Shal Yidei Havoines, through the sins Goyrem Islapshus Keitato Benoiga. Over there, you cause the Keitato to go down and Klipas Neiga. Commission is not you bring it down. So now, what is Teshuva? Corrected. You're bringing it back to the Vav. Come on, but in order to extend to her, in her, additional light from the Enes of Baruch Mamish, that comes through Aseitov. Second level. From above to below. That's the Baal Teshuvah we talked about, to bringing down. That's the Vav Shenikra Eitz HaChaim. That's the Midos. Zayin Nikra Baal Teshuvah. So it's called the Baal Teshuvah. Lefi Shegoyrem Yichud B'chinas Vavkei. B'chinas Yichud Sefer Malek. That is the level of Yichud Vavkei, which is Yichud Sefer Malek. So now we have two. So the two are both connected to the Yud K, to the Vav K, bringing the K back to the Vav, and Mamshech from the Vav to the K, from Sefer Klam Malaklam. Batshuva Gimel, Zoyin Toshuv, Hey Ilah. That is to bring back the upper Hey. That is to bring back the level of Bina. Now that's already called higher than Soiva, because Zoy itself is called the Sefer Mal. That's even higher. Bina is called before Hashem, which means that is higher than the Zoh that is called Sefer Kalam. I mean, we're still using the letters of Yud Kei Vav Kei, the Shem Havaya, but we're talking about the name of Havaya in a general way. Is Zo is Sovev Kolam is Avaya. Bina is higher than even said. Begam, and also Kisgalus Atiku Bina, because the revelation of Atik is in Bina, which means Keser is in Bina, so that's from the level of Sovev Kolam. He's trying to prove that third level, which is in the level of the returning the Yud K, the K to the Yud in the top, with this the K love. In Neida Maharizal, the Yichud Vav K the Torah Mitzvahs. That comes from Torah Mitzvahs. Okay, Yichud Yud K includes the Torah Mitzvahs. Yichud Yud K, so Davka de Mesiras Nefesh. That comes through Mesiras Nefesh. L'chein tshuva zu u'lamayla mebechinas v'asei tov. It's not just doing mitzvahs; it's Mesiras Nefesh, higher than v'asei tov. Afal v'kein, but still mevur kan. We're explaining over here. Tshuva zu hal yidei haTorah. That this tshuva is through Torah. Ki haTorah. Chochma bin nafkis, dainu shemoichin da'aba. That Torah comes from Chochma Bina, which is moichin da'aba. Okay, this all tells us that there's a higher level of tshuva, mesiras nefesh, level of yudke, but there's only one level over there. But truthfully, there's two levels there too. Haina Aleph, number one, Toshuv Kei Lo Lagabe Yud. That is one, to return the higher level of Hey Bina to Chochma. Habeis Kshenikra Baal Teshuva, as we said, the Baal Amashpia. Hainu Masha Omru. This is what he says, quoting from before. This is Sha'omru V'Kadmoyi Amru Baal Tshuva Mamish, that they said, the earlier said Baal Tshuva Mamish. That's the quote from the Zohar Chelik Beis. V'Kadmoyi Amru Baal Tshuva Mamish. So what did the Mikdash Melech explain on that Zohar? Shahu oilu la'aba, that it goes up to Abba, v'nikra mashpil b'chinas abina, and it's a mashpil b'chinas abina. It becomes the second level, the level of Baal to Shuvah, to be mashpia. Just like we said before in Malchus with the Zohar and Malchus, that it becomes about Shuvah to be mashpia into Malchus. But he's going to say, but since Chochma and Bina go together, we only count it really for one. So, hey, it says Bimilu Yud. You return the hey with the Yud, with hey Yud as it's called. So, Inyan, which is the idea of Mimamakim, from the depths, Krosicha, which is base Emkim. So those are the two steps in the upper level. Hainu Bina liba hu b'chinas pnimis halev. Bina, the heart, is the inner of the heart. That's the level of Bina. B'chinas chochma me'eres b'pnimis halev. Then you have level of chochma me'pnimis halev hitalumas, the hidden of the heart. So within the heart, you also have the two madregas. You have the level of chochma and the level of Bina. The level of chochma is the mashpia, and the level of Bina is the mekabel. Gam Yeshleimar, also in addition can say, Shabbez Emkim Elu Hainu Bina Hi Aba Rabel Mesiras Nefesh Be'echad. Bina is the great love to Mesiras Nefesh Be'echad. Chochma Lo, so that's level of Ava, and Chochma Lo Yirei Lo. Okay, so those are the two levels we found that we say in Yudke. Ava became Amrukan Rakshlosh Madregs B'Tshuva. But we're only talking about 3 levels of tshuva, not 4. But here we came up with a 4th level. Chochma Bina. Ki avoim trein reim lemisparshim, Because since Avo are two friends, buddies, that don't separate, Al-Kain, Generally, it's only one madrega. Now we're going to have a problem. How are we going to fit in this fourth madrega in the becher, in the base chof and the reish? The singles we said we divide into three. In Mavur Milo, that's the word itself is going to be the fourth madrega. In the Mavur Milo, earlier we explained the Gimel Shuvas Elu Nirmos Megimel Oish is becher. In the three letters of becher. China Zu Haravi is Nirmezed Beklolus Tevas becher. The general, the word becher. Shareim is Bechochma Ilah. That hints to the supreme Chochma. Shenikro becher. That's called becher. Becher means the first. Reish Zagilui. That's where it comes out first in the level of Chochma. That's why it's becher. But she calls him Zer Chelak Aleph Bereishis. Daf Yud Gimel on the base. Over there it says Kadesh Li Kol Becher. What is this Kadesh Li? The level of Kedusha, do Yud. That's the level of Yud. Yud is Chochma. The Iu Kadesh Bukhra, the Chol Kuchillah. That is the first Kodesh. It's the Becher Kodesh of all Kedush Aliyah. All the holy things of the Sfiras, the first one is Chochma. Parsha V'Aschana, the first Samach Beis Omdal. The Inyan Beis B'chinas Eilu L'Mailo. So how does these two levels play out above? Hainu kitoshu heilah legabe yud. When you bring the heilah, the upper hay, the level of bina, the level of the hay to the yud, so mematalamayla. That's from below to above. You're bringing the hay up to the yud. That's when it comes to malamato. Mebchinas atika kadisha. La'aba u'ma'aba le'ema, from Atik, from Keser to Abba, ma'aba le'ema. Derech zen is Bayer, Bezer Chil Gimel, Vayikra Daf Tezayin, Omadalav HaPosuk. Yoshu v'rachmeinu. So it says, come back and have compassion. Man Yoshu. So it says over there in the Zohar, who's going to return? So he says, Yoshu v'atika kadisha li'izgalia. That Atika Kadisha will come back to be revealed. Bizo. That means come back to Bizo. That's the idea of Mashach Malamato. That's also, we're talking about Bechoir, which is the Petarechem. So in Petal Korechem. Kaddish Lekol Bechoir, Peter Kol Rechem. What do you mean Peter Kol Rechem? The opening of all wombs. The Pirish Bezer Chelak Aleph Bereishis Daf Yud Gimel Soif Amud Beis. He says like this: Peter Kol Rechem Vahishvil Dokik. In that, what is the opening of the Rechem? There is a thin passageway, the Nochas Min Yud, that comes from the Yud. The Iu Aftach Rachamo Lemevid Pirin, that opens the womb to make fruit. Meaning, in the womb there is a thin passageway, I guess, which later on brings fruit, brings children. How do we get the Chochma law to come down below? The power it gets is from Atik. What does it mean? From the upper point of the letter Yud to the lower point to come down. And from the Chochma, the Koitzatach, to Bina, this is Perikol Nahiri, open up all the rivers. Gamal Derech, Vaniaftach Lachotar in Elohim, Ukapischa Shalulam. Say, I'll open up for you, Pischali Kichut Shamata, Vaniaftach Kipischa Shalulam. Open up. That's an opening which comes beyond the Sarusa del Tato. Bechinas es birchosi. Ilok es birchosi. What is birchosi? Bechinas metal shamayim. Hey, Mr. Yitzchok benched Yaakov metal shamayim. He said he took my bracha. The bracha is higher. Shatal. We Sarusa del Eilu. Bechinas Sarusa del Tato magasho. Tal is the level of from above which you don't bring out the Tata. Rain, you have to comes down from the cloud to get down the rain. The do is leinetzer that comes from Maila. Vayim b'shekos v'mokamachar b'inyan peseches yadecha b'dibur hamaschil kehorim yamushu u'dir hamaschil chayenim yamayim u'mashekos b'inyan pirish mafteches apnimius b'dibur hamaschil kitishma anal v'haydu hayde shebtchilo kadosh li kol b'choir kinyan pischili. First, you kadosh li kol b'choir, the level of Torah Mesiras Nefesh. Then it says in both in the level of Adam Behema to Shia. Those are the seed of man. It's a different Shabbos. So all this brings around the children. The Kadosh Likol B'Chayr, Ba'adam, it brings down, and it comes even from a higher place. Ba'amin Kadosh Likol B'Chayr, B'Ravas Parshas Boy, Shirashirim Parshas Mayof Mamoich, V'Kehelas V'Posik Ma'Yisra Na'isa, Ba'ayin Mashikosim Inyan Leida, V'Divra Maschavela Avram, U'Mishom Yuvan Gamkin Inyan Petakol Recha.